Thanks, Danae. Great. Okay, everyone, we're gonna start today with our first meeting of 2026 as the Troy Industrial Development Authority. It's January 16th, 2026. We're gonna call to order the board meeting, and we're gonna start today with our public hearing for the First Columbia 433 River Street LLC project 2025. This notice was put out in the Troy Record, and we are conducting this public hearing in pursuant of Title 11 of our Public Authorities Law, State of New York, as amended in Chapter 759 of the Laws of 1967 of the State of New York, and as amended, a notice of public hearing describing the project, as mentioned, published in the record, a copy of which is attached herein and is official part of this transcript. A copy of the application submitted by First Columbia 433 River Street LLC to the authority, along with cost-benefit analysis, is available for review and inspection by the general attendance and the public in attendance at this hearing. That copy is out on the table. I don't see anyone on Zoom. So we will start with, are there any members of the public present that would like to speak? If you would, please stand up and introduce yourself to the board, your name, and just where you're coming from or representing. And any members of the public, the floor is yours. No one today? It's 10:09, so I feel okay moving. How long have we been streaming for?
Since you started.
Yeah, right. It's like 2 minutes. Okay.
There's people that want to join on Zoom. They're already.
Okay. I don't feel like we pushed anyone out by starting late or anything like that, but I feel like okay moving on past the public hearing if there's no members present. So I'm going to conclude the public hearing section of the portion of the meeting, and we will jump into item number 2 on our agenda. We have a new board member at the table. We have Greg Campbell-Cohen, council member from Troy District 6. Welcome, Greg, and we look forward to serving with you on the Troy IDA and CRC after this.
Thank you very much.
Now we're going to go into the long approval of, rather than, we have 4 minutes in front of us, 5 minutes in front of us to approve today, September 26th, 2025, October 17th, October 21st, and December 19th. I don't have a roll in front of me of who was present for which meeting, unless, Danae, do you have that?
No.
Candy. Okay. We've done this before when we've had these things compiled due to just absences. Do we have a motion to approve the full set of minutes together for these four moments? I guess everyone except for Greg is welcome to vote on this one.
Motion.
Okay, all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have 7 passes. Wait, 1, 2, 3.
One abstention.
Well, I have to
Abstention.
abstain from 2. But there's still enough to approve.
Still got 5. Well, I still have 6 then, yeah.
Yeah.
And then other people have to abstain from others too.
Yeah, it was a...
Because if we weren't in
Messy.
attendance.
Yeah, we've done this before.
Yeah.
It is bad. Yeah, I'm acknowledging that. We, otherwise, then so we can push to the next meeting, but we didn't do that last time.
No, I'm just saying,
Oh, yeah.
I thought we just approved for you to approve them all at once.
That's what I just did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm saying we have 7 for and 1 abstention. Right?
Yes, and I believe that the way that with the attendance we have today, there would be enough.
Still.
You
Yeah.
aggregate 5 at least, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now I get what you're saying. Sorry, that's because you had to abstain.
It's
I
at
was
least
like,
a
wait
5-0.
second. Yeah.
I wanted to be sure before we started.
Okay. Now we go into new business. Piece of the page. We have a project authorizing resolution for First Columbia 433 River Street LLC Project 2025. Let me get to my script page. Okay. So we have a resolution in front of us, the Troy Industrial Development Authority appointing First Columbia 433 River Street LLC as its agent to undertake a certain project, authorizing the execution and delivery of an agent agreement renewed,
Revised, or it should be amended, I'm sorry.
amended lease agreement, amended leaseback agreement, amended payment in lieu of tax agreement, and related documents with respect to the project, authorizing the provision of certain financial assistance to the company, adopting findings with respect to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and authorizing the execution of related documents with respect to the project. So we have members from 433 River Street here for addressing any questions that the board has. I open that to the table to the board for anyone who wants to address any questions with 433 River Street and its agents.
I was trying to find out, I'm trying to, I guess, get to your 485 job threshold number with a max of 650 in 2030. Your, based on the application, you're saying 30 to 45 construction jobs will be created between January 30th of this year through December 31st of 2030, with 846 retained.
846 is the retained number from the previous year. The construction jobs would be for the projects undertaking.
And then 107 City Hall jobs lost for 2027, with a gain of 31 for the 2024. How many, I guess, proposed jobs do you have coming in that are not construction?
So that's going to be at the per tenant basis. So as we attract new tenants and bring new companies into the city, that's when we'll have job figures. A lot of it depends on the square footage they're taking. For instance, there's a tenant that took small space on the fourth floor, and they're going to have roughly 15 to 20 employees total. It really depends on what tenant is coming in and what jobs are coming in with that tenant.
Do you have proposed tenancy for fifth floor?
No, we do not have a proposed tenancy. Obviously, we're marketing and getting the word out there to prospective tenants and different office users, but we don't have anyone that's been looking at the space.
Because you had also mentioned that you were discussing, a possible move here for those that were considering a colony
Correct.
location.
Yes,
so I'm just trying to, get an idea of how many you're looking at to see if this number is actually realistic.
To get up to that number?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's as you know, Colony is probably the biggest competition for office market in the capital region. I mean, that's where a lot of the firms that left downtown Albany, all of them go to Colony. That's no surprise the last 2 years. But for instance, so on Tuesday, we received an inquiry for 17 offices. They asked about Century Hill and Latham, and then Troy, New York. So that's 17 offices with a few admin. That could be 20 jobs that could be steered down towards Troy in 2027. What space they go in, we'll have to see what their exact program is, whether it's on the fourth floor or fifth floor. But that's kind of how the system would work. That helps clear it up a little bit.
We're at 35, maybe.
Just for those possible inquiries, but if
Now,
Nothing's set in stone. These are just things, people that we're talking to, and I think I reiterated this to you guys last week. I was here when the state moved out. It was catastrophe for the buildings too, because there was we had so much space that we had to fill. Right now, we're being faced with about 100,000 square feet of space we have to fill. We are out there, trying very hard to find people right now, because that's the last thing anybody wants. And we want to spur on economic growth, and that's what we do. I think we've proven that over the years of being here. We've been here 20 years. And we've proven that.
And we've looked at the last 15 years in the city of Troy in respect to pilots. If you took the top 6 job pilots, excluding this building, all 6 of those combined are at jobs roughly. We're still 96 jobs more than the past 6 combined. So if you think like this building is truly an outlier on type of economic driver it does apply to the city. Other than RPI, you would point to a single building and how many jobs are in this building. You combine those last 6 and you're at that number, it's pretty astonishing to see how much economic activity this building can produce once jobs are in here.
15 years, top 6, so there's been more than, but I see what you're saying. The
Yeah,
top
just
6
The top 6, so
is
you've got
389. Wow.
389. Yeah. So it's an economic. So you've got projects that have been, in the city station area, which are around 40. The original Proctor's one was around 40, Dinosaur Barbecue had 80 in there. The Hudson renovation was 80. I mean, nothing is truly on the scale of what this building can produce jobs.
And nothing like we'd like more than to bring people into Troy that aren't in Troy already, so, I mean, our marketing staff is working very, very hard right now, knowing what we're being faced with, so it doesn't stop us from making, this is why we came into Troy in the first place, is to spur on economic growth here. So, sticking to that, and we're working hard doing that. But it's hard to predict. That's what I was trying to say. It's hard to predict. It took me a good 5 years to get us stable again after the state moved out of Henley and Flanagan. So, just to give you an idea of how long it took us. And that was in a not bad office market. Now it's like we're faced with different parameters due to COVID. COVID's created a lot.
Yeah,
A lot of companies.
The urban office market's a lot different than it was 10 years ago. I mean, Deanna's here from the public, she works in commercial real estate.
Oh, yeah,
She
you
can,
could probably say the same fact. I mean,
It's a trend. So when the residential real estate is booming, then, commercial usually sees a decline. So that's what normally happens.
This
Yeah,
is
that
a little
is COVID
different,
in general,
yeah,
yeah.
this is a little different now, the mindset of people, because they had a couple of years to be remote, it's changed, you have hybrids now, you don't have as many people, which means there's not as much space they're looking for anymore.
and the
I mean, it's a domino effect, so I think that's here to stay personally, you can, you tell me
There's
what that's.
just a question I have is like, just to understand so with those hardships, there's no, the building, can you speak on how this building, like, does this building serve unique challenges if you were to try to convert this to, let's say, apartments, or try to convert it to medical suites?
Yeah.
Like this, you're looking at just office, and you've done the work to do venue space up top,
Yeah.
restaurant down below with co-working, but this core, is that the only real use space for
Correct,
this?
yeah, those are
So you're-
really the only ancillary uses on the first floor for restaurant and then 9th floor event space. I mean, if you look at the just sheer block size of this building, you would have apartments in the middle, no windows. I mean, did we go through the exercise in 2022 to possibly look at it when we saw COVID happening? Yes, it's just not really feasible. It's kind of it's like the central warehouse building in Albany. Like, people have tried to do apartments there for 20 years and it never worked. I mean, it's the same concrete, big block building. The only thing that really works in this footprint is office. And to the point of that, it's not every building should be transformed to residential, like this one can, but not every building should be. You still need jobs in the city to feed those apartments and feed the restaurants. So that's kind of where our mindset has been in the last 20 years and bringing jobs into this, and that's where it's going to continue. So the building itself would not be able to be converted to residential.
So do you see, on the first floor with the sliding dirty, how many permanent jobs is that bringing? Do you have an idea of that yet?
I don't have that number right now. I think they have 6. As they continue to expand the business, that'll probably increase. Right now, there's 6 employees. It's, the owner and the general manager are hands on site. They're not actually managing. They're behind the counter, they're cooking, they're serving drinks.
They're trying to grow the business
Yeah.
right now,
They have-
and they're working hard to do that.
They have expansion area in the back too, to do more music and possible catering too, so if they grow that.
Okay, so with that is my concern again with the jobs. So relying on that same model with restaurant first floor carrying more of, that type of business, do you think that that is going to be sustainable? Because that has been tried, and then we're here again, talking about a revision of a pilot
Yeah.
because it's not working. So that's, I want to know what your thoughts
This
are.
is a different concept now, and, he's got a fouling, and he's already doing very, very well. And this building needs amenities for the people to attract people to it. Even in our suburban setting, they want amenities, they want restaurants. So food is very big, and walkability, which this has. I mean, you have everything that, new people want.
I think the COVID hurt of restaurants we hope is dwindled, like the food hall opened at, possibly, I think it opened September of 2019, which in retrospect is the worst time to open a food hall. So you had a bunch of smaller vendors who rely on daily foot traffic for 2020 to 2023 weren't getting it, so that's why it was kind of closed down for a little bit. And Tim's, Slide and Dirty came in, and he had a loyal following to begin with, so there's a little bit more nighttime activity down there, which is good. So we don't really see him going backwards. I think the onslaught of food struggling was in the mainframe of 2020 to 2023. It was all small, local vendors just trying to make it work on low traffic.
Competing with each other.
It was unfortunate.
Yeah, there wasn't enough
It was a
people
great
to-
concept, but the foot traffic dropped because of COVID and it just built up, getting people back into the building. It took a while to get people back in the building working, so that's where it hurt.
You alluded to this being a completely different concept than what was under the original pilot.
For food?
Yeah,
Yep.
could you just catch me up to speed
So
on how it's
River Street
different?
Market was the original concept. There was
That was
6 vendors at its
answering
peak.
Yeah,
There was 6, like,
six different
food
stalls with vendors, and then we had a bar.
Yeah, food court.
It was all
Yeah, you're right. That's better.
driven by foot traffic, right? We wanted it as an amenity for the building when we had all the tenants and visitors and guests here. And again, COVID was a game changer, but once you had that foot traffic disappear, none of them could make it. We even offered significant rent breaks to try to alleviate it, and that didn't help it. So, and one of the vendors, Jimmy Ortiz, has Prime Burger. He smoked across the water. He's got Tori's got Fort. He's an excellent operator. He couldn't make it. It was just 0 foot traffic that was able to sustain that business.
So it was
We
like
tried,
multiple,
though.
it was
Not
multiple
for
vendors.
trying.
People would walk around, see what menu they like, grab something. This is just Slide and Dirty. You go in there, you're sitting down, you're ordering off his menu. Usually a loyal following, but there's been a lot of people who are just going down for lunch quick, grabbing to go and coming back up.
Also the whole music program.
I don't want to speak for them, but there's also it's awful for
So-
ride share.
Very important.
Like, I know sorry, we're going off the rails. I know we're doing inter conversation, but, Kevin, maybe I didn't even ask you, you introduce yourself? I just want each person who's speaking to introduce themselves, and please just don't talk back and forth. Let's go person, and, we're addressing the questions too, but I appreciate if you need to call on someone
Sure.
for another question.
I'll have them introduce
Yeah,
themselves.
ask them, but
Kevin
yeah.
Conti, First Columbia. With me is Deb McTarian, First Columbia, and then Joe Castaldo, First Columbia, who manages and runs this whole building for us, so he knows.
And, yeah,
And Deanna Delphos from,
From NEI platform, but I'm here every.
Doesn't work.
Yeah. Thanks.
the local Troy.
okay.
We
And
just know her
brokers
Yeah.
work
from
with developers and
Yeah.
owners. Yeah.
So do we have, sorry, Greg, you keep going on. Was your question addressed? Sorry to interrupt on
I
that.
had one other question if I could.
Of course.
In the proposed 10-year extension of the pilot for the projected taxes, can you just walk me through how you're arriving at the assessment that you're using for those 10 years out? And also, like, what percentage of units you expect are occupied when you're making these numbers?
For the proposed
Yeah.
pilot or the existing one?
For the projected taxes that we're
Yeah.
comparing them to.
Those were off current assessments
Uh-huh.
and tax rates, so that's where those numbers are always derived from.
Uh-huh.
And then the projections on the right side are also an analysis of what it would be, what, people are paying versus percent of gross rent versus suburban as well. And then also, you'll see there's no deduction requested. We're asking for the state level, why all these vacancies all hit us at once, and give us a few years to absorb 100,000 square feet, which is quite a chunk of space, and then increase it from there once we have a little bit of stabilization as we project tenants coming in. Any other questions?
I just want to thank you for meeting with us and going over the financials and putting things in perspective of how the tenants had moved out over the course of time and the whole path to how you got to this point. And it really puts it in perspective. It is, as you said, it's a unique building because of the size, and where it's located, of course, Troy would never want to see it not be as full of life as it has been
Yeah.
for the last 20 years. And that's part of it too, to keep that in mind as people cross over into Troy, and it really is very eye-catching. And that you have a goal to see that come back again.
Yeah.
And the repairs that you've been putting into it
Yeah.
are
Sure,
massive.
The last few years saw some of the facade repairs that Joe and his management team are doing. I mean, nobody wants to see buildings crumbling, you know, like you see in neighboring. This building's kind of an icon for the city and economic driver for the city, and that's what Chris Columbia wants to continue to do, so.
Yeah, so it's between a 100-year-old building and its little faults that big faults that happen yearly, but, we have that along with marketing the 100,000 square feet, so, that's why we're.
One of the interesting things is that they have the largest footprint. So if you have a big corporation needing a lot of space, this is really the only place they can go right now.
What is your typical, like, per square foot, rent, like, list right now in the marketing? Like, what, are you putting that out in, like, the public marketing? Like, what are you?
Yeah, and it's, a lot of it's available online, typically the market rent, for Albany, Troy, or it's right around $20.
I just got one.
Again, they vary too, depending
Yeah.
on what the
Yeah.
tenant asks for, tenants it up. I mean, we have a certain, allowance that we give, and if they want more, they agree
Mhm.
to it, and there's a lot of variables into a rent.
You,
So it's so hard to be straightforward with the rent rate, but there is variables.
Albert had a question, but
Just,
she was going to.
you talked to us about this, last week, your relationship with M&T. Can you just talk about that for the rest of the board?
Yeah, sure. They're the lender on the building. The principal ownership group has been doing business with them since 1990. They've stuck through, when 2012, when the state left in 2010, 2012, it was, conversations we had with them as well on how do we get this building back, standing tall again. So it's a relationship we've had with them for quite a bit in the commercial office market.
And your renewal's 2031?
31,
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Catch up here.
So important to them, for us to
right.
go back to where we were 2012 with them, probably having the same conversations that we'll have to have with them too. Reporting to, the progress and so forth, like we talked.
Thought you had a question?
No.
Oh. We'll keep it open for the board for any more questions.
I was just gonna ask, with the amended job creation numbers, are you anticipating, like, vacant space in the office building for long periods of time over the next years?
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to absorb 98,000 square feet within the next few years. That's why we kind of gave a 5 to 6 year buffer. Like, if you look at it, like, Deanna said, the floor plate is massive. Like, if you go to the suburbs, one building is what a floor is here. Usually takes a few years to absorb a building. So we are anticipating a few years to backfill certain spaces. Like, somebody might take 10,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet. You kind of just chip away as you go.
Well, it's changing this too, like City Hall space, 36,000 square feet. This will become probably multi-tenanted, so we'll have several different, so that's putting more cost into it, doing demising walls in the corridors, aerating them, different.
But that's a fundamental change that's happening, is
It
it's
will.
one type of
It's
office space
Yeah.
into another kind of commercial office space.
Yeah, office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
office to office,
Different types
really,
of
but
users, but
you're not gonna
the
say,
user
you're
who
not gonna
takes-
get a municipal user again, unless you
Yeah.
guys change.
The users of
Please.
taking up
Wish we could.
There's not many people looking for 36,000 square foot floor plate.
No, very different.
I guess, where my head's at on this, and, I totally recognize I'm 30 minutes into the job, is just, there's a lot happening on one side of the ledger here, and not all of that is, your fault. This is, like, consequences of broader things, and, I'm totally sympathetic to where you're coming from. But, it is an amendment of an existing pilot, and, I'd work with you guys on helping to solve problems, but I feel as though a value proposition has to exist on the other side of the ledger to sort of balance things out. And I don't want that to be like a painful thing, but if there's gonna be all of this vacant space, I wonder if there's an opportunity there to provide support for, if not the city of Troy, I understand we've been out. But there's a lot of other governmental or quasi-governmental institutions that
Yeah, we're happy to work with people.
We're open to anybody coming into the
People
building.
on
We're not
space, we are-
picking and choosing by no means. We want somebody that fits right for the building
Mhm.
and does exactly what we're saying. Like, when the state did leave, they actually stayed in their space and didn't leave their space and went home at 4 or 5 o'clock. People here now that are here, they actually walk around the city and actually provide economic growth in that fashion to, you know, save money, or use the restaurants, use the stores. They actually love being in the city. That's changed even in 20 years. So that was a good thing that happened here.
Mhm.
And then with what we're doing down the street with the apartments, the grocery store down there, I mean, and the rock gym, we're trying to spur on people being in this area, not just downtown. So that's gonna help too. So the people that we want here, we want them to be able to enjoy the amenities around them too, and spur on that kind of economic growth too for the city. That's important for the city.
We had probably 2-3 years ago, a meeting with, Mayor Madden at the time. He said when he was growing up, he could throw a bowling ball down River Street and he wouldn't hit anyone.
Yeah.
There was just nobody on the streets, and I think this building kind of changed that. You look at Rounds and Ryan's Wake on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's a lot different than it was years ago.
Yes, just to reiterate my point, I'm sorry, I'm, again, understand I'm just arriving here, but my understanding is that you have a pilot for the things that you're talking about. You've been getting tax subsidies to play that role, which we're grateful, which I'm certainly grateful for.
Yep, from 2016. Yep.
And so this amendment is extending those terms.
Correct. It's kind of taking into account the drastic change of what the world in 2016 is to what the world in 2026 is for urban office market.
But
Not just locally in capital region, but even.
When, just so you know, like when we look at the building, we look at where can we maintain this for a little bit. So it is attracting tenants too. If your taxes keep going like this, our rents go like this, and then it becomes unaffordable for somebody to even be here. So that's another thing that we have to play with. We buy out, Joe's been fantastic at keeping operating expenses pretty low here. I mean, we haven't had huge increases. We buy out, we really are aggressive working with everybody to operate this building, so we don't pass those things on to the tenants. So there's a lot of, like, again, variables of what we look at and what we want to provide for the tenants too, because we're really passing it through to the tenants. We want them to be sustainable here too. We don't want them to leave, or we don't want the ones that are here to leave, and we want the ones that we're trying to get to come and think this is a great place to be too. Because they, you know, it's Colony, Troy, just like Kevin said in the beginning. They have a choice.
Yeah.
Do you want to finish, did you have a follow-up on that?
I guess just final question, if, for folks who, like me, who are coming in at the back end of this, you can just summarize on like maybe 3 sentences, like what are the material changes in this amendment?
Sure. The material changes is, like I said, taking into account the change from, you know, the 2016 original on this to 2026, the change in, the extension of pilot requests while we, you know, try and get stabilized for the next 6 years, taking into account what the different job factors are for office space, in current markets, going from what the old numbers were to the new one. And 3, basically, how do we stay, competitive in Troy when counties have different, neighboring counties don't need economies, people don't need subsidies because the taxes are naturally low there, people have access, and then, that's, if I were to summarize it, as how do we stay competitive and bring jobs to Troy when a lot of the times they're going out to the suburbs right now? How do we keep economic development in the city of Troy?
I think what I'm hearing in that is not actually the material changes, it's an explanation as to why the material changes are happening. The material changes are, the job numbers
Correct.
are going from 30 to 45 with,
Stabilization, yep,
right?
yep,
And the pilot that already does exist is being amended
correct,
to be extended.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other board members have a question to put forward?
I just want to say, because you're new and your questions are great, almost every project that comes to us is apartments, 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 and they don't create jobs. They might create some construction and ultimately maybe a building manager. But for the years that I've been on, and with COVID, there were very few projects. We had a dry spell, but once things opened back up again, and we can all see the building going on in Troy, on every corner, we're bringing people in. It would be nice to have office areas where people who live in Troy could walk to work, and you don't know, I'm looking at it like as an overall part of where Troy could be in a few years, because it has maybe people moving into the region that like the more of the urban lifestyle would have a connection to a tenant that might, be suitable here. Instead of doing, as we talked about, we've heard about just, all right, we're not doing well with business, let's just make it into apartments. I think we're drowning in apartments, and we have another huge one about to come up. And so this is like the biggest one that we've had since I've been on this board, where actual jobs would be coming back from what they were a few years ago. Not counting City Hall, I'm just saying even Express Scripts, the state, all of those that had been lost over the last few years.
Just to add on to that too, this is an unusual pilot. Like, if you just take the pilot for like the amount of payment that this does bring in, the pilot payment is higher than almost anything that I've been in front of on this board. I can't think of anything that's
Given its size and scale
the
here.
size and
yeah,
scale.
it's
So
one of the
despite
larger
it getting the
ones,
breaks, it's also for the 10-year extension bringing in, by far the most amount of any. It's getting $2.3 million over 10 years in breaks, but it's bringing in a significant amount. So there is to Greg's point of like one side of the ledger, like I'm thinking of it from project to project. It's a significant project scale in terms of what it can bring in, and I am cautious of what happens if this doesn't get filled. If it is back on the tax roll, like is it able to even stay at the level it's at? What's the worst case scenario? Is it's not bringing in? There could be a scenario where it's not bringing in 500 to 600K every
That's a
year.
good point, yeah. And I think to your point, because you're looking down into the granular economics belatedly, right, which I can appreciate. Just kind of counterpoint point type perspective. But this is an inducement. There's more tax breaks and more years given. Understood. And the exchange is a bottom line minimum number of jobs, around 4 or 5 million of new investment in the building. That is capital work going in. Taking this extension off the table, looking at the last 4 years that are left, and I think we can take for face value what they're telling us about the jobs. We know City Hall's leaving. There's going to be a restacking here with several 100,000 square feet of space being reprogrammed. In the normal course, if this extension wasn't in place, and this is just a counterpoint, if you look at the last 4 years at the top of your sheet, next year, let's say in 2027, the city's out. They're still reprogramming and restacking. The most natural course of action for the developer in that case would be, I'm going back on the tax rules. I'm going to terminate my pilot. I'm going to show the assessor that I'm 35% to 40% vacant. And the assessor's going to look at that very soberly and say, okay, if you look at full taxes right here on the lower run, if full taxes are something like $750,000 now, based upon some supposition that the building's probably at 90%, the taxes, if they were out of the pilot, would probably be something like $400,000 or $500,000. So why would they pay more under a pilot? And really, you can't. This is a proposal that they're saying, listen, I'm going to stay in. I'm going to continue to pay, and we're not going to file a certiorari saying we're empty or half empty. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit of a safety net for the school, the city, and the county as well. So that there's another way to look at it in terms of a known vacancy, occurrence happening and a blip. And let's say they do scale up by 2030 and they're back up to 800 jobs, they're back to 95% occupancy. Then the assessor would look at it again and say, oh, wait, now you're worth more again. That would take 2 to 3 years to really absorb, and the taxes going up again, so there'd be a valley. So we're kind of avoiding a valley a little bit, so it's just something to look at in terms of the up-down or the cost benefit of the IDA looking at the extension, so just perspective.
These are the current vacancies we know are coming up. We do have renewals too that we didn't count in this, that we're hoping that they said. I just wanted to point that out.
You haven't
too, so
gotten
we
that-
could be
that
in
option
worse
yet,
shape than
right?
what we
Yeah.
just-
And
Yeah.
this isn't a point for the board, but I appreciate what Greg's saying and trying to get other entities in. I think that, I think you're gonna be in a point where to get these job numbers up, you're gonna have to make really attractive offers, and I hope it, like, that's not our decision, but I hope that you come to that sooner than later to get it filled, but, I know the reality of that. What else we got from the board, from anyone? And if nothing,
You don't do triple net, you don't do triple net leases, do you?
It's similar
It just is-
yeah.
You do?
Some cross format.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So do we have if there's no further questions, do we have a motion, for this resolution for the 433 Columbia River Street project?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, let's do all in favor? Hands?
All right.
1, 2. Okay, so we have 5, 4, and any opposed? 2, and any abstent? 3.
One recusal.
Recusal. Sue, okay? So you got that for the minutes? Justin's got it.
Yep, 521 carries.
Okay. The
And I
motion.
would,
Sorry, go ahead.
and I would just like to add, so my reason for my no vote is I would be more open to seeing a revision of the remaining term as opposed to an extension. I just have not been convinced that those jobs numbers would make it there, at that 485. I just don't see it, and I'd rather let's, talk about it now, address it now, then, all right, then we say yes, and then, 3 years later, and then we're at the same point again with, well, we're not making it, we're only at 200, or whatever the number is. So what else we could do to, assist, like Greg
We did a lot of
mentioned.
due diligence to look at that 45 and targeting tenants, and that's experience from the state departure back in the day. We are very confident.
I mean, I lived it, but, I truly lived it, and I lived it in a different environment, but I did live it for 5 years, 6 years, to get it back to where it needed to get it back to.
Well, thank you for, letting us push this, from the initial meeting 3 months ago forward. Thank you to the members of the public who are maybe present, in the future, watching this and paying attention to this. And, that concludes that item on the new business. We are gonna move into, we have a financial advisor, letter. We have a letter from Victoria Stores that I'll let Justin go into a little more detail on this, but just background for Greg and for anyone who wasn't at the last meeting, or was able to look at this. So, in the absence, now this is not because of this absence, but it's also to help this, and this is very par for the course in a lot of different IDAs, regardless of how they're structured, who's on the boards, who's executive directors. It's very common for IDAs across the state to bring on a third-party financial advisor to review pilots for the board and essentially provide again, I'll let Justin go into this, just my summary of it is provide a rating of that pilot essentially to advise us. In the absence of an executive director, I think this is very prudent for this board to do, but it's also something that works in tandem with them because it's someone who's dedicated to this. Now, there's a fee per pilot that comes in. That is covered by the pilot application. So it's not something that we're pulling from our accounts for this, except maybe to put it up front.
It looks like there's two fees. There's a $10,000 fee and there's a $13,000. The $10,000 fee looks like that would be.
The basic at it. I could provide a little bit of
Yeah.
background.
And just the last background on Victoria is this came highly recommended by Justin. I met her at the EDC conference 2 years ago, and we'd like to get more proposals, but Victoria was the first to respond quickest and sent this to us last week. So it's here in front of us. There's no decision at this meeting, but I'd like to invite her to come in to the next meeting. If we can get another proposal from someone, I'd like them all to be here at once, but we'll see how possible it is to juggle that, and we can, but this is, yeah, any questions like that, I appreciate bringing it up now.
Yeah, can I get a copy of one of her reports?
Yeah, I think,
Oh, sure.
I think they're all public, yeah.
I can send you links to them.
Okay.
And just in context, my firm represents probably 50 IDAs. I do probably 15. They all have different kinds of policies. You always have to have a uniform tax exemption policy, and you're familiar with the other policies, and Greg will be bored with them very soon, I'm sure. But in that context, when applicants come to an IDA, there's generally standards that you present to them for how a pilot looks. Ours hasn't been touched probably since 2006 or 7, and it's been a long-standing kind of housekeeping back burner thing that'll probably come to the fore soon. And there's some backstory on that, but I'll use one of my clients, the Village of Port Chester. Sits on the Connecticut border, or if you're familiar with Westchester County. It's a TOD community. The Metro North runs through it. So what's occurred in the last 10 years is they've got probably 8,000 to 10,000 apartment units coming online within a 5-year period. So just massive amounts of housing coming at them. So in that context, it's been a dynamic change to the community. They adopted a new form-based code at the village level to accommodate this new growth coming in and standardizing it with impact fees and recreation fees and the maximized density and how things are supposed to work around that rail line within the village. So they went through the process of adopting a new form-based code, which Troy has done in the last 3 years. And the IDA, in conjunction with that, because it knew all these applicants were coming with thousands of apartments, some commercial, some retail, they adopted a new uniform tax exemption policy to kind of match that volume of projects coming in, saying, okay, if you're an apartment project, it will go up to 15 years. But if you're in our major CD5, CD6 section right next to the rail station, you can qualify for up to 20 with this schedule if you have enhancements for parking, enhancements for green space, enhancements for public services. If you're building a water or sewer line, you're stuck with that, we'll enhance your pilot a little bit to make it make sense. And what that does with having a somewhat stringent UTEP is it avoids the process. Every time you have an application, you get into this nitty-gritty negotiation. And as you go through that process, every pilot looks a little different. There's no uniform standard. It's, why did we do that 7 years ago? Why? As opposed to having an applicant come to you and understanding what they're capable of and what you're capable of giving them. And it's kind of a, not necessarily a one-size-fits-all, but at least it's standardized. And it doesn't affect when you have turnover in staffing. Randy might have done one thing with a pilot, and Steve might have done another thing with a pilot, or Dylan might have done something different, and they might have had a different personal relationship with that developer. It becomes kind of helter-skelter in terms of what you have. If you look at a suite of 20 projects you closed over 10 years, there's some outliers, and you don't know why. A UTEP will help you get into a uniform position where they come to you and they know what they can get. We do the math. If it's a $10 million building, the pilot's going to generate this amount of savings. If it's a $50 million building, obviously that'll scale. But they know what they're getting. They can sell that to their bank, and it's somewhat uniform. On top of that, what they've done, because, and this helps with board members who are like, does this make sense? Elber, who asked very specific banking-oriented questions. Greg, I think, is going to be a good resource, obviously asking questions about the financials and the inducement. And what does that mean to us? You can have someone like a Dylan or a Steve or a Randy telling you it makes sense. What they've done on a non-cost basis, it goes to the applicant. They accept an application, and this is the old joke with Kevin O'Brien as chairman here. The initial resolution is the first bite of the apple, and then we go into a process where it's been a little chaotic in the middle in terms of what you get in the end, and then we have a project authorizing resolution. In Port Chester and elsewhere, what they do at that initial resolution is say, okay, we're accepting the application, and then they forward everything to the financial consultant, who's a third party, confidential, they're under a non-disclosure agreement. They look at it and they develop a report that, in essence, determines whether the pilot under their UTEP generates a fair ROI, high, low, or indifferent. And if they're asking for a deviation, or if they're asking for something different, is it really needed? Based upon their actual financials, what they're seeing from their bank, what their interest rates are, what their vacancy rates are, what their assumptions are. That individual, in this case Victoria, generates a report before your public hearing. And in fact, they actually have a middle month where they get a report back and that board says, okay, we have it, what we're thinking, the UTEP makes sense, then they advance to the public hearing and then the approval happens. So, we have something that maybe takes 60 days-ish, maybe 2 to 3 months, maybe 90 sometimes. They have a very deliberative, almost 120 days where they look at it, they have a third-party report that the board can rely on and say, okay, I voted yes because it makes sense, not because I'm guessing, you know what I mean? So that's helped them a great deal. And to Albert's question a minute ago, her proposal is put together here with 2 metrics. One, to come in and help us with the UTEP, which is a longstanding housekeeping thing. Right now, we don't have a lot of staff. Danae's keeping the lights on, but isn't drafting policies right now, right? I know Jeff has wanted to, and we had a discussion about linking it with the code a little bit.
Just to add, I was happy to see that she included that. That wasn't the expectation, but that's just speaks to Justin and I asking back to Dylan to revisit the UTEP. The first thing that someone from the outside does when they look at our board and putting a proposal for reviewing project evaluations is, oh, you're not ready for that. We need to look at your UTEP first. So I was pleasantly surprised that she put that in. And to a question you had about the fee, that is not something that comes out of those pilot applications. There are things on here that would be board money that I'd want these.
There's some of your budget here, right?
Right. I'd want these people to come in, present to us, but I want to conclude today, just are we interested in them coming and presenting on these 3? There's the third thing is the student enrollment and household evaluation analysis. If we're interested in them coming in to present on those 3 things, and then we can decide which one, or are we just interested in the project evaluation, for example? That's the only thing I approached her with.
Kind of an a la carte.
Right. So sorry, if you wanted to go back into the 3.
The final point here, and this is, and I think Council President Sue is here, Greg's here. You all know history, Troy, the county is a greater entity. We have 2 IDAs in Rensselaer County. Well, several. There's one in the city of Rensselaer as well. Establishing a really good housekeeping, having a brand new UTEP that's linked to form-based code is great. It's aspirational. We should do it. There's a little bit of tension in the system where if we have a rigid and very intelligent design pilot system here that, it's 1, 2, or 3, choose one. Do you qualify for the higher? We'll analyze it. We'll figure it out. If people don't like what we're saying, they can go have a conversation with somebody else, and there's a tension there. It's almost a race to the bottom. So we've been trying to come up with a way to deliver that in a way where, Troy IDA does all things Troy. That always doesn't work out the way we'd like it to, but so there's a little bit of tension there. At Port Chester, there's a little bit of a détente. The county IDA won't go into a community that has an IDA in it, just out of a little bit of longstanding understanding.
Right?
That would,
Mida won't go into
that would be
the city.
nice. That would be nice.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Yeah. There's some ideas that Jeff and I have talked about, along with others, with the planning board and the planning, well, it used to be commission, now it's a board. Is there a way to enhance the site plan process and the form-based code for both zoning and site plan, whereby you got to use the Troy IDA? There may be a way where you can tie the planning process to the IDA inducement process, so the Troy boards from the council down have a voice in the tax impacts of a particular project. And that's really, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But if another IDA comes in, and we're publicly speaking right now, another IDA comes in, they're not necessarily going to drill down on the impacts on the library district or the bid district or the jobs on 4th Ave. It's more of they're looking from a very different altitude. If we can get to a point where the new hygiene, I call it corporate hygiene, we get our policies kind of updated, are they going to be consistently deployed, and do we have an ability to make sure that people go through that channel? There's tension there, and that it's been there forever. But we're trying to figure out a way to get our housekeeping up to snuff, and this would be helpful. And we can get other proposals. I work with Victoria. There's Camoin Associates is very active in the space. National Development Council.
But this board isn't required to put an RFP.
No, it's professional services.
Just reminding everyone of that too.
Yeah.
It's up to our discretion And the absence of an executive director isn't the reason for us not having pursued this, because we've had multiple that have asked about this. But the first step in doing any of that with the UTEP or the arrangement with planning board is we need someone that's not our board counsel to, work on this for us. We don't have that right now. We also serve publicly on this, pro bono, let's say, put it that way, and Justin's time is not to be spent on this. So, that's what I want to start pushing while I'm still here on this board as chair and with you guys, in 2026. So this is the first step, is the proposal to look over and getting your approval. Are we interested in these areas? There's other avenues of research that she could look into. She put down because it's very relevant to, I think, many board members. We've actually had people come in, Greg, for Catholic High, whatever that's called now, from the school board about that project. And her point in bringing up student enrollment and household fiscal analysis, you can read this as a one-time report, but you can do this for other areas that we might be interested in jobs, and just give us cleaner summaries that, so I'd be interested in hearing my goal of bringing this to this meeting, there's no motion today, but just, I'm interested in, I want to see if there's board support for seeing, is there interest in these three areas and learning about maybe other areas for advisement that they could bring on, and continue down this path of looking for maybe getting another bid just to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say yes, and the structure of a master services agreement, so where one may be stronger in another area, then, could rely on that other consultant to provide that type of information. But I do really like this idea.
Right, and to Mike's benefit, I think, to a certain extent, there's another divide here early in the process, and I keep using Portchester, but other clients have done it. When the village was going through their form-based code process, the IDA also procured a study through Urbanomics, I think was the firm, and it was a school child mitigation impact study, where if you bring in 4,000 apartments, what happens, right? Is there an impact if there's multifamily, 2, 3, 4-bedroom apartments, or whether it's affordable or market? If you're going to be providing an inducement and a tax break to those things, what really happens to the school? How many kids are coming in? What is the impact for both capital projects and for your service delivery? So in the form-based code, they actually come up with a number. You're going to pay an impact fee if you get a building permit of $9,000 per kid, and that gets edited every year. They have to report every year for 10 years. This is under just the code side of the world. And when it comes into the IDA pilot, there's also an enhancement. If it's multifamily, they check the address. You have kids in the apartment, and they figure out how many kids are in that building. So they've come up with a way to right-size and balance pilots, because I know there's a tension historically with, if you give a tax break to an apartment building, what does that mean to me as a school district? And what am I, if I'm not seeing that revenue, or if I'm actually gaining revenue, which is the other argument, without that building, you wouldn't have pilot payments. But is there a way to accommodate the cost of the school district for delivering kids there? So that's another thing to look at. And
Well,
certainly,
the bottom line there is, how do you deliver education without an increase in tax dollars?
exactly, yeah.
Whether or not your student enrollment goes up or down, you still have to deliver education to a group of people. So -1, -2 doesn't really affect
Right. If you have 30 new kids in a
what
building.
that cost is.
Yeah.
Even
So,
if you get 30 new kids in 1 year, it's really not that big of a mover.
yeah, but they're looking at stuff like that, and they actually have impact payments that are being made outside the pilot
Yeah.
to absorb that hit.
The piece that I like that you're speaking truth to is the jurisdictional concerns between the county and the municipality when it comes to the IDA. Because, I don't like, historically, I'm not a fan of IDA shopping. This is Troy.
It's a race to the
And
bottom.
when we construct and build within our city boundaries, this should be the entity that controls how that financing is arranged, not people that live in Averill Park.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of catching up, and good housekeeping, I call it.
Yeah.
So I think we have an opportunity, even in the absence of, someone like Randy, running the board agenda now. Jeff has really stepped into the crease as a volunteer.
Well, and Steve was very strong for getting development here, and that, frankly, the amount of time he spent doing a lot of things, sometimes there's not time to step back and just bring something new on. that's the sense I got with Dylan and Randy too. Randy's effort, I'm not taking on more things, but Randy's effort on bringing something to, like, let's just say, into the 21st century for this board is not happening now. So we're kind of at the whim of whoever's in the executive director. This is the board taking more control of it. So I'm happy to see a positive response to this. I appreciate everyone's, time on this. And I think between now and the next meeting, just come prepared with questions and take a look at her website. We'll share, as soon as we find a second person to get a quote for, we'll just email that out. We'll have to email that out to the group, and you can look at their information too. And because this is all public information, the first time I saw this in action was at a Green Island meeting. That was that from the company. And so going to see that, all this information is public, so you can see a lot of these reports. But if you don't find anything or you have specific questions, bring her to the meeting. I don't expect this coming on board until, for a couple months, but we'll try to get, and Victoria represents people all over the state, so we'll try to get her in person, but if you can only do video conference, we'll do that. And
She's
we'll
also the chair of the Bethlehem IDA.
Right.
In her free time, right?
Yeah, so that's, thanks, I'm excited. I'm glad everyone's on board with this. The last item for new business is the vice chair position. Ryan, not being on the board anymore, leaves the spot open. I was messaged by Renee and Justin that Alex expressed an interest in that, but just keeping it democratic. Is anybody else interested in taking the vice chair position and when I'm sick, having to run the board meeting? Okay.
Alex, you'd be great.
Do we have to put that to a motion? Sure. Yeah, let's put a motion forward for Alex in the vice chair position.
So move. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And no old business today, but on to financials with Matt.
Our first report is the statement of financial position. As of December 31st, we had total assets of $1,298,641, with $1,216,715 of that in cash. We had total liabilities of $21,543, which left us with a fund balance of $1,277,097. Most significant change to the statement of financial position is just in the other government liability account and a customer deposit. We received payment for the Proctor School tax pilot now that pilot is terminated. So they paid that portion, and then the $500, which is still just in the process of more detail on that, but someone paid an application fee, and we got to work out the closing for that.
Yep, we closed in the month of December. I believe Troy said it'd be great music hall project. That revenue came in, I think it was 136. And as part of the Troy City Hall project, which you're all familiar with, and Proctor's, the prior owner had a pilot through the IDA, and as part of the sale, that was terminated. So much like when you close on a house, you split the taxes based on the number of days. The pilot terminated as of December 18th, so they paid their school tax payment through that date for the school year 25 to 26. So that was paid to the IDA and will be distributed out to the school. And that's one less project in the suite of projects for Danae to manage, so congratulations to Danae. And so it's a pretty good, strong closeout to the year.
Yeah.
So, a few more things coming. American Theaters, I think, waking back up again through the Proctor's organization. And I think there's a couple others that are probably coming in 26.
Wasn't that like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
They started in 2019, in fact,
really?
yeah. I think we're on our third crack at it, but
Yeah.
the pressure on clearing the ARPA funding, clearing other grant programs, and getting their tax credit equity together, I think this is the year.
Yeah.
So, it'd be nice to see that finally wrapped up and woken back up.
Our last report is the billing activity. For the month of December, we ran a surplus of $12,748. Our most significant source of revenue was our admin fee for the project, and then our largest expense was our annual management fee to the city.
I have no update on New York class.
That was my question.
we
Did you
did.
talk to the McNess? or no?
I go between, there's a barrier between me and them, of Danae and Justin, so I don't have a direct
I
line.
think we need to probably schedule a meeting with, the three of us and Seamus and him and figure out, it's a question of what they have, the city has in terms of fund balance held within Pioneer traditionally as their largest banking institution. If there's an allocation, a breakout of city fund balance, just to start an account with New York Class, that would allow the IDA to come in and follow on. So I think they just, now that they've cleared the budget and they're into 26 with maybe a little bit of bandwidth opening up, we can have that conversation. The end of the year was all budget crazy, I think.
Do you know what the
Then
interest
we're in
rate is
annual
on this?
report season too.
To the city council members who might see them in the halls, just tell them Jeff's coming for them. For
Do
New York
you know
Class.
what the interest rate is on this money?
If you look at their website, they provide
Oh.
daily average,
It's-
earnings,
oh,
yeah,
it
New York
changes it,
Class.
okay.
Yeah, and I think they're still
Do you know what ours is on
around
our,
4.
Oh,
on
really?
ours right now?
0.1.
Currently, 8.5.
Oh, for the year.
That's better than it was before.
Before it was 0.5.
New York Class just went from 3.60 to 3.61 while I was on the page, and that's the 7-day yield. So I don't know how long they're,
And you can take out any time, there's no CD breakage or no.
so it's
yeah, no
similar right
penalties.
now. It's actually lower than when we first started looking at this. It's a shame.
Well, I was looking at the interest earnings, and it actually is pretty good for where we were at.
Yeah.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to approve the financials?
Can I just ask one quick
Oh,
question?
sorry, go ahead.
The $125,000 management fee, is that for 2025? Or does it cover over,
For 25.
oh, okay.
We pay late, usually December, to clear the year out. I think we're looking at dialing that a little bit up, given the Proctor's relationships with the IDA and the LDC can help subsidize some of that rent obligation that the city has. So it's a little bit of arbitrage along the way. So, because the IDA and the LDC will continue to occupy space within that facility as part of an economic development department. So the idea was that both of the boards, IDA and LDC, would contribute to that for the space that they use.
Motion to approve the financials?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Well done.
It's past 11. I'd prefer to not have the CRC unless Danae absolutely needs something for financial auditing for the end of the year. Are you gonna be in a good spot if we do in February?
It's just a matter, everything will just roll over until January, but I don't know if the auditors, Matt, ever asked about that, like financial presentation of the year.
Anybody's background, is approved, but.
So you're okay if we do that in February?
It's not financial.
Okay.